There's a memory that won't let me sleep anymore. Maybe it's not even mine. Maybe it belongs to the woods, and all it really wants is to be remembered. I know that sounds crazy. I can almost hear you breathing on the other side, wondering why someone would want to confess something like this. I'll just say this now. If stories like this keep finding you after dark, subscribe to Horror Whisper. Some things are easier to face when you're not alone. I smelled the boot before I saw it. That oil leather odor, wet and sharp as a dead thing, just sitting in the middle of the trail. Not a pair. One boot. Fresh caked mud on the tread, the laces barely loosened. Planted dead center between a scatter of last year's leaves and new, wet ash. I froze, one foot in the rut, the other on soft moss, staring at it, feeling like if I stepped around it, something would reach out and grab the back of my leg. No footprints led to it. None led away. I told myself it was a hiker starved for dry socks, maybe doubling back barefoot, but there was no other sign. The nearest trailhead was 5 miles north, and the side road, Hollow Road, though nobody calls it that on any real map, barely exists now. It's barely a scar between the trees. My job was to make sense of scars like that. Timber cruiser, branch of forestry that feels like a death sentence when you read about the ones who didn't come back. Logging, mapping, walking the places everyone else skips on GPS. My assignment that week, survey the decommissioned Hollow Road all the way to mile marker 42. It hadn't appeared on state maps since 1978, and there were warnings, sure, but every county is full of fake ghosts. Or so I thought. That morning, I'd parked my rig just past the last maintained gravel. Somewhere the fog seemed pumped straight from the ground. My phone dropped signal 2 turns back. It didn't matter. I had topo maps, a radio in case something went wrong, and 4 spare flares, enough to flag down a bear if I needed. Confident, armed, trained, alone. Too naive for my own good. 20 minutes in, the woods fell silent. Utterly, uncomfortably silent. At first, I thought my ears were plugging from the altitude or the chill, but there was no wind, no bird noise, not even insect whining. Just the slow, sticky drip of rain that had no rhythm to it, like the forest was holding its breath. I slowed. Boot, axe, sample bags, headlamp, all suddenly feeling 100 pounds heavier. It's hard to describe, but I felt seen. Not watched, the way deer will freeze and blink, but mapped, like invisible eyes were recording every movement, copying it for later. That someone's behind me panic hugging up my spine. I told myself it was the caffeine working on a tired brain, convinced myself I was still the only living thing in 2 square miles. That's when I found the sign, hand-painted in crooked black. Screamer lives here. An arrow pointed into a dark bowl of spruce, moss, and slick rock. Pure forest. No trail. My first thought was vandal kids. My second was some kind of warning for tweakers. But somebody had nailed it up high, just out of easy reach. Below it, an X drawn in orange flag tape fluttered in the airless cold. The wind didn't even bother. I kept moving. Rationality is the armor you wear until something punches holes through it. I told myself there was nothing to the superstition. My only fear, really my only fear, was ending up in the files of missing 411. To disappear into nothing, to become a file, a name people would forget after a few months. That dread was like a second skin. I followed the arrow anyway. That's my curse, stupid curiosity. 30 paces later, a whistle. Far away, 3 musical notes, rising, falling, repeating once. A human sound, oddly cheerful. The next time I heard it, it was close, right behind my right ear. Pitch perfect, identical, like someone hit repeat on a speaker. Nobody there. I spun, hand on my axe, mouth dry. Echoes do strange things in empty woods, I told myself. Sound can bounce off valleys, water, rock faces, but not with that much precision, not that human. My grandfather used to say, "Never answer a voice twice in a place that should be empty." It ran through my head on a loop, but I pressed on. The job comes first. Another 100 yards and my GPS screen flickered. I was still under strict cloud cover, so I figured satellite reception was garbage. I marked a tree with orange tape, 3 strips, like I always do. I called out, "Surveyors heading through," part of my ritual, part of my safety protocol. A voice answered back, "Surveyors heading through," identical to mine. Not a single beat off, not a single tremor or edge of laughter, just flat, like a cheap recording of myself thrown perfectly across the trees, coming from too many directions at once. My stomach tightened, breath nodding in the cold. I pulled my phone, no bars. I pulled my walkie, scanned through static, nothing but dead air. I kept talking, maybe to calm myself, maybe to test how many times it would echo. I asked, "Anyone out here?" My own voice. "Anyone out here?" But this time, it responded from down the trail, and then from behind, then from above, like it had climbed into the branches above me. I broke off, pushing hard through ferns and wet roots to a glade where another orange tape flagged a log. Then I froze again. My spare keys I'd left in my car's glove box an hour ago, sitting neat as a museum display on top of the moss. Next to them, my wallet, unzipped. Nothing stolen, just arranged. Like whoever did this wanted me to know they'd been to the center of my entire world. No way I'd dropped them. I swept the area, shouting, "This isn't funny." No answer, except a fast stutter of white light, like a camera flash in pitch dark. It went off right in front of my face, blinding in the gray daylight. When my vision cleared, I saw, just for a second, a tall white figure, blurred at the edges, 9 feet if it was an inch, standing utterly still at the end of the abandoned road. The skin wasn't skin. It was uncanny, smooth as stone, flecked with hints of bruised purple and ash. Long arms, impossibly thin, its face completely blank, except for the mouth, drawn into a stretched, toothless grin, teeth packed too tight for any jaw I'd ever seen. Then it was gone, as abrupt as a dropped camera shot. I stumbled back, foot snagged in a tangle of roots. Cold swept over me so hard I felt my teeth ache. I must have hit my head harder than I thought, because the next thing I remember, I was back on the marked trail, heart drumming so loud I could barely hear. I checked my camera. Nothing but static. My phone was stone dead. No explanation. The time on my watch jumped ahead 40 minutes. I had to decide. Keep going or bail and risk a write-up back at HQ. My pride, my belief that logic and experience would always keep me safe, pushed me forward. The further in I got, the more I started seeing patterns. River stones stacked in a perfect line along the side of the hollow, each stone painted white at one end. High on the trunks, orange rags tied at shoulder height, dropped to waist height, then dragged nearly to the earth in a line leading toward a thicket. Every so often, a cluster of stones, perfectly circled around something lost. Gloves, chapstick, even a map torn into strips. Items nobody could have carried out here but me. That's when I saw the first set of prints. Fresh, angled tracks. Mine, but not mine. Mid-stride in a patch of blackened ash, walking east into thicket, just ending halfway across nothing. Impossible, unless whoever or whatever left them knew how to float. A sharp, metallic stink blanketed the air, like blood and battery acid, sudden and out of place. I pressed on, even though my instincts screamed to turn back. The sky thickened, went gray as a bruise, rain falling harder, softer, in constant rhythm. I found the next marker, and then, not 30 yards from where the map said there ought to be no human sign, a hand-carved sign staked into the leaf mold. Room 2. Just that. All caps. Paint still glossy. Below it, taped to the trunk with black electrical tape, an old photograph. A woman in ranger gear, standing on the same trailhead where I'd parked. She looked scared. On the back, scribbled in Sharpie, "If the light goes out, do not look through the hole." I told myself it was a prank. Had to be. Some survivalist nut messing with newcomers, scaring off wildcat loggers. But the edges of my fear were flaring now, and every step deeper into that valley felt like stepping into some enormous, open mouth. That's when the ranger truck appeared, green and white, state departmental logo, pulled over onto the far side of a muddy service road. My heart nearly exploded with relief. I waved, flagged the radio, rushed up. The window rolled down. The ranger inside was big, sunglasses on despite the gloom, mouth curled into a yellowed smile that never touched the rest of his face. "You need to stay on the marked trails," he said, cheerful as poison. His voice slipped, cracked, words repeating themselves, a split second out of sync, like a badly dubbed video. "Stay on the marked, on the trails, stay, stay." Black, soulless eyes, no white at all. My relief turned to freezing pressure in my chest. I mumbled thanks and stumbled away. The truck rolled past, tires silent over the gravel. When I looked back, it was gone. No engine, no taillights, only a blank road and rows of staring trees. I checked my radio, flipping back to the all-call frequency. Still nothing but hiss. But in the static, I thought I could hear my own name, repeated over and over, sampled and played back, warping into childish giggles, then into a scream. My scream, perfectly replicated, again and again, until I shut the unit off and jammed it in my pocket. By now, dusk had slammed down hard. I stumbled on, flashlight barely holding a charge, boots slipping in places I swore weren't there an hour ago. Wet gravel, moss, mud, soft pine needles. The road dropped, vanished into a hollow I hadn't seen on any map. Orange tape marked a route, but now the markers were at ankle height, writhing in ways flag tape shouldn't. I followed out of desperation. That's when I found the cabin. Crooked, dark, porch light burning pale yellow. Nightly cash, a handwritten sign promised, dollar signs half faded. The curtains pinned tight, boards over the window. For a moment, I thought I was saved. I knocked, not caring how desperate I sounded. "Anyone in there?" No answer. The door was unlocked. I stepped inside. The room was a tomb of old smoke and mildewed velvet. The curtains were stapled shut, every gap taped over. A note under a chipped coffee mug. "If the porch light goes out, don't look through the peephole." My hands shook. I sat on the cracked cot, clutching the hatchet in both hands, eyes on the only window. I swear the air in there tasted of static. From outside, in the new silence, something clicked rhythmically along the gravel, like a child's bicycle, each rotation wrong. The porch light flickered. I held my breath. A soft scratching began at the front door. Familiar, my own pattern. 3 short knocks, then silence, then 3 more. I nearly lost my mind right there. The impulse to look through the peephole was nearly unbearable, like the urge to touch a hot stove. But I didn't. The scratching stopped. The porch light flickered back on. I waited 5 minutes, maybe more. When I came out, the woods were darker. The cold was so thick it burned my exposed skin. Something scraped the wall behind me, a sound like Ning fingernails over stone. I sprinted downhill, every movement echoing, doubled in the gloom. That's when I heard it, the sound that kills any hope. A child, or Something pretending to be a child, sobbing in the brush. "Help me, please, help me." I took one step toward it, then froze. The sob came again, directly behind me. I spun, light catching on something small and crouched, all in gray, face down. I called out, "Hey, are you okay?" And the thing lifted its head. No face, just smooth, unbroken white. Then, with impossible speed, it scuttled at me on all fours, mouth opening sideways, stretching, the sound no longer a child's but a static scream that split the trees. I ran. Branches slashed my arms, mud sucked at my boots, headlights flickering in the periphery. I followed the road, but the markers now led into a pit, a massive hollow that hadn't existed hours before. River stones lined the way, each painted at one end, like it wanted me to go in. My watch said 5:33, but the sun was wrong, too low or too high, as if time had shuffled sideways. My mind jolted through memories that didn't belong to me, flashes of sharing cocoa with a woman in the woods, a ranger, her face never quite coming into focus. The same face pinned to that tree in the photo, smile too wide, eyes a little too blank. I made it back to my car, hope flickered again, only to die. All 4 tires had been slashed, gashes wide and clean, as if a blade longer than my arm had opened them side to side. The windshield was fogged from the inside. The engine wouldn't even turn over. My battery meter on the dash flicked to 0, then back to full, then off. I started screaming, loud, desperate, embarrassing. The kind of scream you feel in your bones, except something else screamed with me, my own voice, echoed by a throat that wasn't mine. Louder, louder, growing, layers upon layers, until the trees themselves seemed to vibrate with the sound. It was performing my fear back at me in real time, mocking the very last part of me that was human. I ducked into the back seat, locked all the doors, clutching the hatchet so tight my knuckles ached. White fog crawled over the inside of the glass. That's when I saw the movement, 9 feet of pale, disjointed limbs unfolding from the darkness beyond the mirrors. It glided, not walked, toward the car, head tilted, that impossible grin stretching and splitting where the face should be. It pressed the flat of its faceless head against the window, smiling an impossible smile, teeth packed into every inch of the mouth, chewing at the air, a sound like 1,000 voices cycling through all the screams it had ever eaten. Then, a shock, the headlights blinked on by themselves. In the split glare, I saw my own reflection standing outside the driver's door. Same jacket, same hat, same exhaustion, only colder, emptier. Its mouth moved, slow and deliberate. "Open up. I'm home." I blacked out. Or maybe I just lost time. Next thing I knew, it was dawn. Maybe. Mist rolling over the road, lighting everything in pale gray like a morgue. The car battery was working, the tires were whole, my phone was charged at 50%. No explanation. The only proof something had happened was my body, mud-caked, freezing, shallow cuts along my arms that weren't there before. My hands shook so badly I could barely put the keys in the ignition. I drove until my eyes hurt, checking the rear view every few seconds. The woods seemed to thin, the light not quite matching up with the dashboard clock. At the edge of reception, my phone chirped. A new message. 7 seconds. Voicemail. No number. My own voice. If you're hearing this, don't go back. Don't go back. It's mapped you. It knows. I deleted it. Or I thought I did. A week later, back in my own kitchen, I heard it again. That same whistle. From under the window. 3 notes. Rising, falling, perfect as a recording. I thought it was stress until my own phone called me. Caller ID, my number, my own voice. Come outside, Jesse. You forgot something. I checked every lock in the house, shut off every light. Still, the voice outside, calm, familiar. Jesse, Jesse, surveyors, heading through, always in my exact tone, timed to every fear, every doubt. I don't know if I'm me when I look in the mirror anymore. Every time I hear my own laugh, I wonder if it's real. Sometimes I lose time, just a few minutes, but it's enough to forget if I locked the door. Sometimes I see movement in the window at night, and it's just me standing there. That's my story, at least the parts I can still remember as mine. I keep telling myself it just wants to be remembered, that it will leave me alone if I tell the truth, if I warn someone else. Or maybe it's waiting for me to finish this, not to scare you, but because you're next. So just ask yourself, when you hear your own voice in the dark, repeating back what you thought was private, will you answer? Are you sure you'd know who's really knocking at your door? This is Horror Whisper.